In this video, we're going to make these castings. And to do it, we're going to start with this wax sculpture by Crazy Al Evans, link in the description below. And we're going to take the sculpture and put the sprues on it and the vents on it and get it all set up for casting. Put it in a mold, like that. Pour rubber in the mold. Cut the mold open and pour resin until we get perfect, very, very clean, bubble-free castings. Stick around, I think you'll like it. So for this video and for this piece, I thought I would make a permanent mold case. So this is just PVC pipe from, Home Despot. Rip it in half. And that means that it's not a perfect circle. It's a little bit less than a perfect circle, but it doesn't matter, it's close enough. Put it on a piece of wood that we're going to use for the base. So I'm just going to put this on there and mark out the half with that. And the other one goes on here like this. And I want this to be pretty accurate. Let me go cut that and make a nice round circle out of it. Okay, I cut this out. Let's see if it fits. While I was at it, by the way, I cut a little block of wood to make his base. And that's going to sit centered more or less like that. Glue those two together. Let's see if this, oh, look at that. I astounded myself. We'll center that up by eyeball. A little bit of tight bond. So your basic wood glue. Go ahead and glue that block onto here. Let's go through my voluminous funnel collection. I think that I'm inclined to use this as our funnel. The base is ready to go, so now we can go ahead and just slap the wax on it. Beautiful beeswax, ever useful, ever popular beeswax. Beeswax sticks to everything and nothing sticks to beeswax. So that makes it just about the perfect mold release material. All right, I got that really deep in there, but not through, so that was brilliant. Very good. Let's see if it fits. Oh, yeah, that's going to be perfect. Look at that thing. The very little connection smoothing to be done. Very, very nice. Al put a lot of time and effort into this piece, and now I have to drill holes in it. I'm going to drill these holes in succession. If I started with a bigger bit, it's always a possibility I could crack this piece. It could split. Or some other unfortunate thing, and I really don't want to spend the time to fix it. So let's see if I can cut this hole without making more time for myself. Good. Let's do the last hole. Here we go. Beautiful. Excellent. Now we can put in the sprue. I want to bend this rod, but I don't want to overbend it. It's pretty hard steel. Give it a few whacks. Like I said, I don't want to overbend it. I'd rather bend it in stages. You can see where I'm going with this now. This is going to go in there like that. Oh yeah, I got quite a bit more bending to do. I want this to bend up. Okay, let's see how close I am to being happy about this. Okay, so we have the base and we have the main sprue. Now we need to attach this sprue to this sculpture, but before I do, I need to fill that hole, because that hole cannot be there in the casting. We're going to have to drill that hole in later. Before I go on, I'm going to put some sticky wax on this sprue. I want that wax to really bond to that metal. Now let's go ahead and put that in. Just is going to seat right in there. And we'll just wipe it off. Wipe off the extra. That is going nowhere, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, that sticky wax is coated on there. I'm going to let the thing cool. If I put it in this hot, it would melt and distort the wax piece. One of my jobs as a mold maker on this project is to kind of identify places of concern where we are liable to catch bubbles. And one of them is right here. I'm looking at that, not loving that little point. That's just a prime spot for the resin to rise up to catch an air pocket right in there. And similarly, in these little fingers here. So I think what I'm going to do is slope them a little more to make them less likely to be bubble traps. I got the areas where bubbles will be a problem all taken care of, and then I put on the main sprue. That's the main chute where the resin's going to fall in. I'm attaching these blue wax rods to serve as vents, which is where the air is going to rise up out of the casting. And of course, the whole trick is to position them exactly where you want them so that it will vent properly. If you don't, your piece is going to catch bubbles, and that is going to be a problem. You want these connections to be adequate to vent the air, but not so large that they are just a mess to clean up. It's all about the labor that I put in now is all about minimizing labor downstream. Because, I'm doing this once, but I'm going to have to make something like 200 castings of these. And that means that any flaw has to be fixed 200 times. So that's pretty much all the vents that boy is going to require. The resin is going to flow down the tube, flow in. Any point that's facing down is no problem. It's going to fill itself. And then the resin is going to rise up in the cavity. And when it hits this point, it's going to rise up that little tube and out the fish hook, and it's going to be filling in here. But once it gets up to out here, it's all just going to fill up like this and fill to the top. Let's put this in place and see how it's going to look. Ooh, that's going to be mighty, mighty, mighty close to that side. That is not going to fly. Okay, here's the issue. If you put a edge on there, you can see we don't have enough gap here between the wall of the, it's going to be too close. So one choice would be to just simply cut this off and move this whole thing over. But I'm inclined instead to put a little wedge underneath and tip this thing up. All right, so here's a boy all sprued and vented. I made the slope, and I lengthened the vents so they should hit just right. So now we'll grab our blob of sticky wax. This wax is surprisingly strong. Once it's attached, we can just go ahead and position it like that. Yep, I think that's going to be just fine. Let's take a look, and you can see how much meat I left around it. So I'm very pleased with that. You really want to make a seal. Wax is so perfect for this job because it makes a good seal all the way around. And at the same time, it is very, very easy to take apart. It's not that strong. You put this together with 5-minute epoxy, you are never going to get it apart, and that's going to be really damaging to your mold. So you don't want that. Let's see how it looks how it feels to just wax this seam. Close up the seam with the wax first, then I can come around. Now this looks pretty nice actually. Okay, so all I've done is just come behind with a little blade, kind of scrape clean that surface. Let's wind some tape around there. This is my little insurance policy tape. But that's going to assure that there's no possibility that this thing can pop open. Onward, let's mix some rubber and pour it in. Okay, we're going to dispense the rubber, and I've already put the hardener down inside the bucket. And now we're going to add the rubber. And one kind of simple way to do that is simply to hang your bucket. It's got a 5-gallon bucket. Just hang it off the edge, and it'll just flow in a nice and controlled way. Okay, the rubber's flowing. The rubber still keeps flowing. Let's see where we're at. And it's beautiful. Now we're going to we're going to measure out 320 grams. All right, there you go. We are now at 300. So now I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to want to control the flow. Because what I don't want is to dispense too much. So I just dispense out little dollops. And boy, that's really close. The first try. All right, so we are at 320 grams. And you know, I did nothing. I was really very low tech, very easy to do, and works beautifully. Okie doke. We'll stir up some rubber. You've seen me do this before. If you've watched any of my other rubber videos, you know the drill by now. Just hand stirring the rubber. Let's get this rubber mixed, thoroughly mixed. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I always put the hardener in first. And the reason for that is that I don't have all this unmixed white rubber clinging to the walls of the cup. So it mixes all the way out to the walls by pre-coating. It's my brilliant little trick that really works well. Okay, we're fired up. Let's put in the rubber. Now, if I did this right, that rubber is going to rise right up to the top of the rim and hopefully no further. But it is going to come right to the top. Now, what happens if it goes over? Well, I'm prepared for that eventuality because I got one hand on the out valve. So if I feel like it's going to blow over like it might, but I think it's just going to stop. Look at that. Let's see if I can get you into a position where you can almost see what's going on. What you want to do is pour all the way to the bottom of the container of the mold case and let the rubber rise from the bottom, pushing the bubbles out as it goes. See what I just did? That's kind of what you don't want to do. Now I'm going to get away with it because I'm near the top and the top up there is smooth. But you don't want to do what I just did, which is to drape the model with rubber, because that's the way to catch bubbles. You don't want them. Bubbles are our enemy. I will just take you for a ride back over to the hot box. Bring my little mold and just set him in here. There you go. All right. He's like an incubator. It's gonna, we're gonna keep him in there till he hatches, and that'll be about 24 hours from now. He'll be ready to cut. Yesterday I put this into the hot box and I just pulled it out, and we are looking good and ready to go. Let me see if I can just break it off the base. Yep, it came off just about as I expected it to come off. It's very unusual when you can take something out of a mold without dinging it. All right, let's peel the tape, which really are nothing but safety belts. If you'll recall, I put the tape on there strictly as a safety measure. All right, let's see if we can't pry this mold open. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, here we go. Once it goes, it goes. The hard part's kind of breaking the vacuum, breaking the suction. Once it starts, it goes pretty good. All right. The position of the cup, of the pouring spout, and the position of the vents really clue you in to the cut. So we know we're going to be cutting it across here because they're oriented to the cut. And as always, I'm going to start. Now let me see about this X-Acto. You don't want to be fighting with a dull knife when you're cutting molds open. Now this cut is straight down the spine of the main feeding sprue. So it's going to get a nice jaggedy cut so it closes up on itself. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Take the vents out, and as you always follow those vents down. The vents are your guide as to where you should be going. Notice the rough, jaggy cut. That's by design. That's what you want. You don't want a smooth wall, or the mold halves won't lock back together cleanly. They won't lock back together. If you cut them perfectly smooth, you create a situation where the mold halves can slide around past each other when you reassemble the mold. And that is exactly what you do not want. You want rough, jaggy surfaces that will interlock. Cannot stress that. That is really the secret to cut molds. If you fail to do that, you can create a mold that will move around when you put it back together, that won't lock on itself. There we go. Now I think I might be past where I need to go. Let's see. Yeah, okay, good. And let's take a look at our mold here. Very, very, very nice. I don't see a single bubble anywhere. Beautiful. Just perfect. All right, I couldn't be more pleased with that. That is a successful mold. And look at the detail in that mold. Isn't that phenomenal? I love molds. I've done a million of these, and I still get a kick out of just the amazing capturing of every little detail, every little bit. It's fantastic. All right, good mold. Rubber bands never fit the molds exactly, so you just tie knots in them to make them fit. You want nice, even, gentle pressure on the mold. You don't want big, giant, gnarly, brutal rubber bands, because it'll distort the mold, it'll deform it, it'll squeeze it, and that squeezing will cause not only will it make a misshapen casting, but it'll also open the parting line, and that you do not want. Resin is a two-part system. This is part A and part B, and you want to shake up part B really good. And I like to dispense my resin into small cups. It's just easier to work with. And I also like to keep a paper towel handy to wipe the cups. Keep the stuff clean, because man, I tell you what, you get to dripping on stuff, you get to making a mess. The A side is different in that it tends to want to crusty up, harden, air dry. So it will crust up around the lid of your, I use a little wrench to get it open. Okay, tends to form crusties all around the rim. I like to wipe the jugs clean, because it's just so much better to keep stuff clean. All right, we've got our A and our B. I think we're going to go with about a 40 gram for the first batch, so we'll weigh out some resin next. I put some orange pigment into the B side. And let's weigh out. Start with the A. We're going to do a 40 batch, which I think is going to be more than enough, but we'll know the exact weight after we've cast the first one. So let's start with 15 grams on the scale. Got the 15 on the scale. We want to get to 20. So let's go to 20, and we're right on at 20. That's the A side. Let's add the B side, 20 of the B side. I will sneak up on it, so I'll go 15 grams if I want to make 20. That way, if I accidentally overpour it, I still have some slack in my system. 20 grams of the B. Okay, that is ready to go. Let us stir, stir, stir. Now, I don't take a lot of time. This is quick setting resin. Wants to come out of the mold in about a half an hour. So it's like, you got to go. We got to go, kids. And let's pour it. It looks like I'm pouring into the top, but I'm actually filling from the bottom up. Looking good. Let's see what's going to happen. Now, if we did it all right, we should see the orange resin coming up those holes. See them coming up? Perfect. Okay. We have these pressure pots, about 80 pounds per square inch inside of that thing. Into the tank it goes. Close the outlet valve. Put the door in. Wait 20 minutes, 25 minutes. All right, let's check our witness cup. Yep, hard as a rock. All right, let's see what we've got. Let's take a look. Okay, see what we can see. Here we go. Stand by. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Look how nice that is. Look how little flash there is. Very little to clean up. It's such a clean way to make a mold and make a casting from that mold. Boy, they just come out super. All right, beautiful. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in the next video.